The Sacramento Kings show some improvement in game 2 of the preseason, but obviously there are still some glaring issues to work on. And will someone please tell the NBA officials what the whole point of the preseason is? That's not the time to make it about you guys. You are listening to Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all preseason and soon to be all regular season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and things look better than they did in the Golden One Center on Wednesday night against the Toronto Raptors. There was some improvement, some things that I'm happy to point out, things that we will get into. There were obviously many things that looked the same or still didn't look great, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The Kings lose to the Portland Trail Blazers in a game that went down to the wire. The Kings lose 124 to 123, and the 1 point that the Blazers scored at the end of regulation to win the game came at the free throw line. It was the 73rd free throw of the game. Now, I tend to try to avoid talking about the officials as much as possible unless things are egregious, and that's what this was. This was egregious, right? It's game 2 of the preseason. The whole point of the preseason is to develop a rhythm, develop a flow for teams to get playing time so that they're not going cold turkey into the regular season. I understand NBA officials also use the preseason to get right themselves and get ready to go. I'm not naive to that. But this game was disjointed for the entire 48 minutes. I guess I appreciate that the officials were consistent from the start of the game to the end of the game in terms of calling everything a foul, not allowing really any physicality. This game was as ticky-tack as it gets in terms of whistles blown. But at some point, maybe after the amount of fouls that you had in the first half, maybe you could convene in the locker room during halftime and go, hey, all right, like we're blowing the whistle a lot. We're giving these teams a lot of free throws because it was not like one-sided. Both teams, like the Blazers shot 40 free throws, the Kings shot 33. So there's a 7 free throw advantage for Portland. I'm not going to say it was one team bias over the other or anything like that. It was just way too much officiating, like way too many foul calls. Hopefully, like you would think going to halftime, it's like, all right, maybe we ease off a little bit. You know, this is a silly kind of example, but it's what popped into my brain. When I was younger, I used to umpire for baseball and softball games. I did it kind of just as a side hustle, right, while I was in college. And a lot of times I would umpire games of like preteens, kids that were recreational ball, kids that were like starting to really learn the game. And calling balls and strikes for a softball or baseball game with a bunch of 11, 12, or 13-year-olds, there's not a lot of pitches that actually go over the plate. There's a ton of walks that happen. So as the game goes on, typically I or my fellow umpires would go and tell the coaches, hey, like I want you to encourage your players to swing the bat. If it's close, I'm calling it a strike. And that would typically encourage more, action. The whole point is for these girls and boys to learn the game. Again, that's a very silly, small time example compared to NBA officiating and the greatest basketball players in the world. But I think you get my point, right? You go through the first half, there's a lot of fouls. Hey, maybe we should adjust some things so we can actually let these players play and get into a rhythm, which is, again, the whole point of the freaking preseason. But whatever. referees. Was that final foul on Neat Clifford at the end of the game a foul? Maybe it was. I haven't looked back at it. Maybe it was. But 73 free throws, that's ridiculous. All right. Talking about the Sacramento Kings, not the officials, let's start with some positives. Because there were positives in this game. And I know some of you aren't going to want to hear this. I know others of you are going to go, thank God, Matt, you're finally being positive a little bit, because I guess I was too harsh after game 1 of the preseason. I thought the Kings looked sharper than they did in game 1, right? I think they just looked more engaged. They looked more on the same page. They appeared more like what they want to be than they were in that first showcase on Wednesday night in the Golden One Center. I thought that the starters specifically looked better together. That was one of the things I was asking for coming into this game, because while individual starters had good individual moments in game 1 of the preseason, I felt as a unit, the starters didn't really impose themselves on the game. Now, to be fair, the Kings allowed 37 points in the first quarter. So once again, they gave up far too much scoring in that first quarter. We know the defensive limitations, not just of the starting lineup, but of the entire rotation, it seems like. And that is stuff that, of course, they have to clean up. And a lot of the starters are responsible for that with their individual defense. But as a group, as a unit, I thought the Kings came out really, really hot. They started strong, got off to like a 9-4 start or something like that. So I felt like the starters imposed themselves on the game more than they did in that first game, and that's encouraging. Zach LaVine looks fantastic. I think Zach LaVine looks great. He is coming off of last season where statistically he put up one of the greatest seasons that he's ever had, right? Actually, I don't think it's I think it was the best season he's ever had. Right, an unbelievably efficient shooter, an unbelievably efficient scorer. Most of that time, of course, was in Chicago. But through these first 2 games, he's shooting the lights out. He looks comfortable. He looks in a rhythm. Tonight, he had 19 points, 7 of 11 from the field, 5 of 8 from three-point range. Played 25 minutes, actually played the second half of this game. Just very engaged, in a rhythm. This is what the Sacramento Kings need Zach LaVine to be. This is his role. You are the primary scorer on this Kings team. And he's looked like it through these first 2 games. So that's encouraging. I thought DeMar DeRozan looked more like himself in this game. And of course, with LaVine, with DeRozan, with all the guys that I could talk about positively, there certainly were some negatives, and especially on the defensive end. But I thought DeMar did a better job getting to his spots, getting those shots that we know are money for him. He had 10 points, shot an efficient 4 of 5 from the field in 23 minutes. I do appreciate, too, that it feels like DeMar is bought into how the Sacramento Kings want to play. It feels like there's less ball stopping, less isolation, and he's trying to get comfortable in the flow of the offense. There still is a lot of your turn, my turn, which the Kings need to work on offensively. But I think we're seeing the growing pains of this group just learning how to feature each other. And DeMar, I think, deserves credit for that. I did see more 2-man game with Domantas Sabonis, more action with him at the top of the arc. He and Dennis Schroeder had some good connections. We saw some more dribble handoffs, so just some more pick and roll at the top of the key or beyond the 3-point arc, which definitely is a good sign. And then off the bench for the second game in a row, Drew Eubanks looked really good. He looked solid. Now, defensive issues at times, but 11 points, 3 of 5 shooting from the field. 2 games of Drew Eubanks coming in and holding that spot down and playing well with Domantas Sabonis in foul trouble again in this game. That's encouraging. Do I expect that to carry throughout the entire season? No. But Drew has looked good in these first 2 games, looks ready to hold down that spot and give Maxime Reynaud the time that he needs to get comfortable enough to be able to win that spot from Drew. And I like that Drew's not making the competition easy. Drew's playing well enough to where all of us, fans included, can understand why he's playing over Maxime Reynaud right now with that second unit. And it gives Max a bar that he has to reach, an opponent that he has to beat and be better than. And he hasn't been better than Drew in these first couple of games. Dario Saric's shooting was really, really good. I was in Kings practice earlier this week, and I shared with you that Dario Saric won a shooting drill against it was against Dennis Schroeder, Daquan Plowden, I can't remember who else was in the shooting drill. It might have been Isaiah Stevens. And Saric won the shooting drill, and he was on fire. He wasn't missing during that shooting drill. And here he is, 4 of 4 from 3-point range, had 14 points off the bench in this game, didn't even play in game 1 of the preseason. And then I'm glad Nique Clifford got the amount of opportunity that he got. It's very clear that Doug Christie views Nique as a piece of this rotation going forward. He got opportunity with the main guys, got opportunity to be kind of the leader of that third unit down the stretch, had 15 points, 5 of 11 from the field, had a steal and a block in 26 minutes. Yes, he did have the foul at the end of the game that sent the Blazers to the line to ultimately win the game, but good moments for Nique. And then the young guys again, great fight in the fourth quarter. Sacramento was down 13 points in the fourth quarter, and they fought all the way back and had a lead there late, had a chance to win the game. Ultimately, couldn't get the job done. But I thought good on the second or the third unit, the young guys again, for showing fight down the stretch to get the team back into the game. Second game in a row, they showed that good pressure and that good fight, which is a good sign for the youth movement of the Kings going forward. But of course, we got to get to the bad, and I have some very specific defensive notes or observations that really caught my attention in this game for some reason more than others. I'll share those with you in just a second. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun and simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're right in the game. It's super quick. You can make your lineups in under a minute. They just added this thing called Stacks, which is new. I'm very excited about it. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. That's a big deal. I'm very excited about using that in the NBA. Like if I feel that Zach LaVine has a really good matchup, I can take his points. I can take his 3-pointers made. It's a new, really interesting way to play PrizePicks. It's also fun, of course, to follow other players in the app, your friends or betting experts out there, and copy their lineups with one click. Download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Okay, Debbie Downers and Doomers, let's get into the bad. First and foremost, Keegan Murray hurt his left thumb in this game. We haven't gotten any more information on the severity of the injury. I hope it's just something that was bothering him a little bit, that they're erring on the side of caution and playing it safe, considering that it's preseason. It's a bummer because Keegan was having some good moments, especially right before he exited the game with that thumb injury. In the third quarter, early in the third quarter, he had he did exactly what Doug Christie was looking for. He picked up 94 feet, pressured the ball handlers, stole the ball at around half court, and then by himself had a easy transition dunk. And then in attack mode on the offensive end, he attacked the basket, got some contact, finished with a little runner floater in the lane for the and one. So some good moments from Keegan Murray in this game. He did go 0 of 2 from 3-point range. That number not nearly to the level that Doug Christie wants. Doug wants that number to be around 10 3-point attempts per game because he wants Keegan to hunt shots. Well, Keegan only took 2, didn't make any of them. We're still waiting for that 3-point shot to come back consistently for Keegan Murray. I'm very curious why Keon Ellis only played 8 minutes in this game. If you want to try and tell me that it was a matchup thing, I mean, I don't really buy it. Now, Doug has made it very clear to all of us, like, not to read into and pay attention to his rotations. And like, preseason is the time for experimentation to also kind of figure out what you don't know. And I'm hoping that Keon Ellis only really played 8 minutes in this game because Doug Christie knows what he's got in Keon and knows that Keon can work in different scenarios and different lineups, and decided, you know what, Keon, you can take the night off a little bit tonight, play a little bit, and then I'm going to use your minutes and distribute them elsewhere to give other guys some longer looks, like Nique Clifford, for example. So remember, the reason why Nique Clifford played as much as he did in game 1 of the preseason was because Zach LaVine only played the first half and didn't play at all the second half. That was planned. In this game, Zach LaVine and the starters played into the second half, yes, Keegan Murray hurt his thumb later on, but it seemed like, I'm just guessing, that it was Keon's night to not play so much, and Doug wanted to use those minutes elsewhere for other guys to get different looks. So I'm not concerned about it, but certainly something to keep an eye on. I am concerned about the second unit's production as a whole, though. I thought Malik Monk had good moments in this game, but Malik really is the straw that stirs that drink, right? Malik has a lot on his shoulders. Keon Ellis, too. Like, Malik and Keon offensively really have to carry that unit before Neek gets comfortable enough in the NBA to score at a consistent rate. And Drew Eubanks has been good in these first two games, but I'm not expecting 8 to 10 plus points from Drew on a daily basis with that second unit. So Malik and Keon, granted, it's going to be staggered. There's never going to be, or very rarely will there be, a full bench unit in the game. Like, there typically will be a starter or two balanced in there and staggered in there. But man, there is just a lot on the shoulders of those guys. And the second unit, when they've come in and played, things have gotten a little bit out of hand in the first halves of both of these games. So something to be a little bit worried about. The Portland Trailblazers absolutely dominated the glass against Sacramento, which is concerning when, one, you have the best rebounder in the league in Domantas Sabonis, but you also have Drew Eubanks, and you have a pure 7-footer in Maxime Reynaud coming off the bench, right? The Kings should not be getting killed on the glass as badly as they were in this game. I'm talking 20 offensive rebounds for Portland, leading to 23 second chance points. Like, you want to know where you lost the game? It's there. Like, that's the reason you lost this game, because you gave them far too many second and third opportunities on a possession, and they scored 23 points because of it. Like, that can't happen. And someone pointed this out to me on Twitter when I was talking about it and asking about it, and like, they're completely right. Like, that's a fight stat. The other common term you hear is like a hustle stat, but with Doug Christie, like I talked about in the last episode, like, he's talking about winning the fight every night. You have to win the fight every night. Getting beat that badly on the glass, offensive glass, that's not winning the fight. So they got to figure that out and clean that up. I will say, as we get into our defensive observations, I got what I wanted in a way in this game. I thought, like I said in yesterday's podcast, like, I would like to see almost an overcorrection to where the Kings were helping less, because they overhelped far too much in game one, and it cost them, and it allowed them to give up 20 freaking 3-pointers from the Raptors. I wanted to see them play more one-on-one and help less and leave guys on an island a little bit more. And it felt like they did that in this game. Now, guys got beat and they got killed in the paint because of it. The Blazers had 62 points in the paint, but they only shot 27% from three, 10 of 37 from 3-point range. So it did feel like the perimeter defense and the closeouts were better for the Sacramento Kings. Their one-on-one defense wasn't wonderful because they were getting beat off the dribble and blown by a lot, but at least they had a presence at the 3-point line. So again, the whole point of the overcorrection and helping less is so that now you can have two different games of film on tape to find this middle ground between the right time to help and the right time to just go one-on-one. And it's up to you to stay in front of your man and guard your man. You're not going to get bailed out. You have to do it, right? I did feel that there were moments when the Kings did help and it worked, but there were also too many moments in this game where the Kings didn't help with a purpose. There were two different possessions where I thought Zach LaVine helped on a baseline drive and he didn't do anything. Like, he came over and just kind of stood there near the paint while whoever the Blazer player was attacking just finished at the rim. Like, if you're going to help with a purpose, even if you're flying in there, my guy's beat, this is going to result in a layup or a dunk. I'm just going to fly in there and foul the dude as hard as I can without flagrant fouling or anything dirty, and make sure that he can't get this shot off and have him earn it the hard way at the foul line. We all know the referees were blowing everything, blowing every whistle. It wouldn't take much to execute that foul. Like, there were a couple times where I just saw the Kings do these rotations and this help that just kind of put a body more in the vicinity of the offensive player, but it didn't really do anything. And I felt like this was an issue for the Sacramento Kings last season when they would try to like trap and double team. The double teams were always too slow and too late and didn't cut off the passing lane. So they would just leave a player wide open, and the player getting doubled would just pass it to him. And then there's a mismatch and usually results in a bucket. So the help rotations, when they happen, they have to happen with more of a purpose. You can't just move yourself into the vicinity and expect that to be good enough. At that point, you're just moving without there's no point to what you do. I do feel like defensively, this is what I noticed more than anything in this game. The Kings are on the back foot a lot. You notice this? Like, go back and watch some of the highlights, or let's pay attention to this a lot in this coming Wednesday's preseason game 3. I think it's against the Clippers. Like, I know you have to backpedal as a defender because guys are coming at you. And like, unfortunately, offensive players get all the benefits in the world. You can't just stand in their way unless you're planted, or it's going to be a blocking foul. So naturally, you have to move backwards to some extent, but you also want to turn and move your body and almost move at a diagonal to cut off the lane, not just be flat-footed backpedaling. There was a time where DeMar DeRozan straight up was flat-foot backpedaling when Jeremy Grant attacked him, and he tripped and fell down. And I'm not singling out DeMar specifically like it was only him that was doing it. Everybody was on the back foot far too much. So if Doug Christie's talking about being physical, make sure they feel you. If they're bumping into you, they're the ones initiating the contact. You're on the back foot. You're already leaning back. And even if your hands are up, you're not really doing much. I just need to see the Kings more on the front foot or more solid defensively with their base, because being on the back foot really killed them in this game. Also, the Kings transition defense is really, really bad, but it's hard to defend in transition anyway. It's especially bad for the Sacramento Kings. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about an observation from Kings fans I saw on social media that I think is a bit unfair, but there also might be a little element of truth to it. Plus, I want to share with you what I'm most confident in with this Kings team right now going into this season. That's all coming up for you here in just a second. Before that, though, got a couple more sponsors to share some love to. The first one being FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you just do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is so much fun. It gives you so many different ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props, and even follow the live lines during games that you are watching. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Locked On Kings is also brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about over the years here on Locked On Kings, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. Quo is great with their team share feature. It allows a number of your employees to collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging and nothing is lost in translation. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hour calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. And whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional at all times. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over for no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. So let me ask you this, because I've seen Kings fans talk about this on social media. How do you feel about this idea or observation? You may have felt this way or observed this, that the veterans on this team are easing their way into the season. that they're not giving their all. They're not playing 100% or giving 110% in these preseason games so far. I do think that observation is a little bit unfair, although I do admit there is some truth to it. Because I don't think these guys are being lazy by any means. But I also understand for someone like Dennis Schroeder, and I'm not trying to make excuses for these guys. I'm like, this is just being human. For Dennis Schroeder, who played a bunch of basketball this summer, super meaningful basketball, winning a Eurobasket title for Germany and winning the Eurobasket MVP. To play 4 meaningless, I mean, they're not meaningless, but 4 games that don't count, that don't matter, just a month or so after all the high stakes Eurobasket play that you just had. Like, I naturally understand there's a bit of a drop off. Like, DeMar DeRozan's going into his 17th season in the league. I think DeMar DeRozan knows through all the preseasons that he's been through, like, what it takes to get ready and what it doesn't take. Now, I do understand any Kings fan that's going, Matt, it's counterproductive though. Like, Doug Christie is calling for giving your all and picking up 94 feet. And if your veterans aren't willing to do that in a preseason game, like, what precedent does that set? You're 100% right. And I think Doug Christie is probably having that conversation with those guys. I know he had that conversation with them after game 1 when he called the starters and their unwillingness to pick up 94 feet and play with that intensity. He called it unacceptable multiple times. So I don't know if I agree completely with the observation that these guys are easing their way into the season. Like we just talked about, I thought Zach LaVine has looked great offensively over these first couple of games. But I also don't believe that what we're seeing from Schroeder and DeRozan and LaVine and Sabonis is everything they got right now. And I was listening to Sacktown Sports 1140 radio today. Whitey Gleason had Henry Turner on with him. And Henry made a very interesting observation, or had an interesting request. He said, like, Doug should ask these guys, hey, give me 10 minutes. Like, give me 10 minutes of everything you got. And then you can sit on the bench, call it a night, collect your game check, get your ice packs, and move on to the next thing. I thought that's interesting because a lot of these starters played pretty significant minutes, not the minutes they'll play during the regular season, but guys in the 26, 25, 24 range. So noticeable, meaningful minutes in this game. And I'm wondering, like, if Doug Christie had almost an NFL preseason approach, where in a lot of these preseason games, you'll see the starters, the main guys out there for like 1 or 2 drives. That's it. But the expectation is in those drives, you look as sharp as you can. You use those as if that was the drive at the beginning or end of a actual NFL game with a lot on the line. I don't think this is ever going to happen because you also use the preseason for conditioning, especially with how the Kings want to play. But what if Doug Christie just said to his starters or his main guys, hey, Dennis, hey, DeMar, hey, Zach, hey, Domas, I'm going to play you for 10 to 12 minutes in this first half. During those 10 to 12 minutes, give me everything you got like this is an NBA Finals game. Just show me. Put yourself in that headspace. Put yourself in that zone. Go all in for these 12 minutes, 10 minutes with a break in between them. Give me that. I think that would tell us more about that group and their buy-in to Doug's system than these 25 minutes of good moments, but also times of natural human coasting in games that don't matter during the preseason. I don't know. Maybe it's a dumb idea. I have plenty of dumb ideas, but I'd be curious what that looks like. I want to end with this. It's a question that I want to ask you, and I'll answer it myself, and maybe your answer is going to be the same as mine. What are you most confident in with this Kings team going into this season? What are you most confident in? My answer right now, based off these first 2 games, is Zach LaVine. Zach had an incredible offensive season last season, and it looks like he's picking up right where he left off. And what I'm most confident in with Zach LaVine, I think he fully understands his role in Sacramento. Your job is to get buckets. It's to score. Now, Doug is going to ask more from you, just like he's asking more from everybody on the defensive end. And I can tell you firsthand, we've seen moments in these first 2 preseason games, but I've seen it a lot in training camp. You just have to trust me. Zach LaVine is making good defensive plays. I've seen it. So I feel like there's the buy-in from Zach on that side of the ball. Doesn't mean he's not going to have breakdowns and bad moments. He's not known as a defensive player, but I've seen the buy-in from him more than I've seen it from any other of the top veterans. And he's scoring the basketball as the Kings expect and straight up need him to, and how they're paying almost $50 million for him to do it. So as of right now, Zach LaVine is the guy that I have the most confidence in with the Kings going into this season. Maybe if he had a bad shooting performance, maybe I'd cool that off on that a little bit. But I feel really good about Zach LaVine right now. I want to hear from you. Who are you, or what are you feeling most confident in with the Sacramento Kings going into this season, even after an 0-2 start to this preseason? Let me know. At Matt George Sack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.